Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today my agenda is, let me define agenda of today's session. Start discuss about API design. So we cover the basics of the Mule message processing. Okay, that's two fundamentals we covered. Now I want to discuss about the API design. This is also equally important. Today I will cover the basics of the API design. And we come back to implementation and we see the debug process. How to debug the Mule message processing. And we discuss about MVM component. MVM component in Mule message processing section. These two are related to implementation and we do in Anypoint Studio. This we do in the API design. Okay, so this is today's agenda. Now we need to design an API. We need to design the REST API for our integration. So what is the basic usage, basic advantage if I expose my integration as an API? Amut will discuss. Yeah, so the purpose is that other applications can get to, can have access or communicate your application via online. Excellent. So the client or the application which you want to access my API can have a detailed information about my API. So the API design is a simple document. What it tells is what are all the resources available in an API and what are all the services my API provides. And for each to access each service, what input the client has to pass. And after execution of that service, what output the API returns back to client. Right. So that information is bundled inside the API so that the client who wants to access the API has a detailed information. What input he has to pass, what output he will get from the API. So all the information he has. Therefore, he can efficiently use our APIs. Right. This acts as a contract between service consumer and service provider. Right, API works as a contract. Right. If there is no contract service, consumer has no way to understand about the service provider. Right. That's right. Okay, now that is the basic definition of the API. Yeah, now coming to the REST API. Let me show you some slides on that. So you know about the REST, right? REST is an architecture style based on web standards. So we use HTTP protocol to implement the REST standard. Right, and REST is a primary basic block. Sorry, resource is a primary basic block in the REST standard. So what is the resource? You heard of resource, Amut. Resource. Resource, yeah. In the REST terminology, the resource. In the REST terminology, We always use the resources. Oh. So in the REST, very first step in the REST is we identify the resource. Then you may ask, what is resource? First, they will say that very first step in EST implementation is REST API design is identify the resource. So resource is a real-time object, right? So I want to develop my something like HR API using HR guys. I want to develop some API for HR. So here the real-time object is employee. For this application, employee is an object. What this HR API want to do is it want to create a new employee to the organization. If a new employee joins the organization, you want to create a new employee. And you want to generate the report on the employees for that HR application. Want to retrieve the already existing employees. Retrieve the information about the employees. And you want to change some employee information. Some address got changed. The employee designation got changed. HR application want to update the employee. Update the employee. When employee left the organization, this application want to remove that employee. Delete the employee. Delete, right? Correct? Right. So my API want to do these operations. It want to create the new employees. We want to get the information about the employees. We want to update the employees and delete the employees. So here on what object it is working is it is working on the object called employee object. Right, employee is not a simple string or an integer, right? It is an object. It has some properties. Employee object has properties like employee has a name, employee might has employee number or employee ID. And it has a designation. Some blah 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 properties are there for each employee, right? So this is an object. It is not a simple string, right object. So this is called a resource. I call this as a resource. Resource. The rest are not. So what is resource means? The real-time object that we want to create or we want to retrieve or we want to update or delete. So that object is called resource. Okay. So everything in the REST, it is not about the site. It is revolved about the resources. First, we need to identify the resource. So a resource is accessed via common interface based HTTP standard methods. Okay. So if I want to create a new employee, I need to use some HTTP method to create a new employee. Then what method is appropriate to create a new employee? So to create a new employee, client has to post. Yep, a client who wants to create a new employee, he has to post information about the employee. This is the employee name, employee number. It's a create this employee. That each message comes to the REST API or REST application. And take this employee information and create some of the backend. Maybe store the database, whatever, right? It creates an employee in the backend. So it takes the employee from the client, but that the appropriate method is a post. Post only supports, right? Post has a body. So that in the body, this message travels to the application and application can be able to create an employee. For that to create, the appropriate method is a post method, the HTTP standard method. Yeah. Okay, now, sometimes the client wants to see the employee's information. Now the message flows from the API back to the client. This way, right? Yeah. So what kind of request the client needs to do is he needs to do the request using get method. Get method, yeah. Right. Get means get the employee information from the application, right? So to retrieve, the appropriate method is the get method. On the resource, on the employee. If I apply get method, the client will retrieve information from application to the client console. If a client wants to create a new employee, use the post method. In the post method, you post the employee details on the employee resource, so that employee got created on the backend. Right. Yeah, so to update a specific employee, there is some employee called Modi who wants to update the specific employee. The client will pass the employee ID and what information you want to update. Right. Yeah. For that, the appropriate method is the put method. Put method. Yeah. Right. So delete the employee. There is a delete method. These are HTTP standard methods. Right. So on the resource, I will apply this standard method and I will develop the application. That's what here it's mean. I will show you the demo also. Don't worry on that. I really like how you lay it out. So there's a couple of technology here. In the REST API, you deal with the resources. Right, correct? Yeah, exactly. And the resources say that are real time objects that you want to interact with. Correct. And to do that, you use HTTP method. Either you know to post when you're creating stuff. Exactly to use a get method when you want to retrieve information. Excellent. When you want to update, you put. When you want to delete, you delete. When you delete the resources or no, you're not deleting resources. So this thing, for example, like say that if you are adding or getting stuff, what is that you're doing? Is it? We cannot say that we are adding resources, right? We cannot say that. We are creating resource on the backend. On the backend. So I thought, for example, in this example, employee is a resource. Exactly. Embedded resource. But what we're adding is that a new employee information or updating information or deleting information. The whole. You know the whole. The root of you know we're not changing that, but we are changing what contains the employee and I don't know table or whatever. Correct. So what is that part that we are updating or deleting or posting or creating? Can we call it a resource or it has a different name? Which one? Which one hammered? So in your example, like the employee right employee, okay. When you want to add new employee, you use a post method. You want to create a new employee. Yes. Create a new employee is a post method. Yeah. And when you want to update, you will use a put. Exactly, retrieve get. So for example, like when we get and delete, maybe get is very straightforward. But when we post in a new employee inside the employee and object, right. Yeah, what I'm thinking about it is that like it's like a table called employee, right? Yes, yes, yes. And inside the table there's a columns and rows. Yeah. That shows all the information about the employee. Exactly, so when we add in, we insert a new row. Like a new person. Correct. So, and that's the one we add in or deleting or updating, but we're not touching the employee table. Right? We're not changing the table, but we're changing the rows inside the employee. Yeah, that is on the implementation and hammered. So that is the next phase. We are not, we are still in the design phase itself. I know. So alright. So that's implementation. You can use a backend as data database or you can store inside a file. Whatever way you can implement the backend. Right? Okay. So now we focus on the design itself. The design, okay. Alright. I'm getting it. The implementation we do on the Anypoint should be a little later. Oh, got. Right now, we focus on the design. How we are designing this API. There is some one development, some HR API where it's required to create a new employees, to retrieve employees, to update employees, and these are requirements required for the client. We need to do these methods. Okay, how a client can use your API and create a new methods on the backend, new employees on the backend. And how a client can retrieve the employees from the application, how it operates. So all the stuff. But that we will design the API first. Okay, yep, you have to design first. Alright, got it, I'm with you. Yeah, for design purpose. We're discussing about how the API would be designed, what methods used to do what kind of operations. So that's the discussion happening now. I will show you the design, I will show you the RAM, and then you get an idea about how we are designing the API and what is the advantage of design, all the stuff. So, at the time of implementation, your questions will be answered. How we are doing that on the backend, how we are creating databases, how we are creating hosts. That is all the implementation. Right. Now in this session, we will focus on the design phase itself. So the REST application deployed in server provides access to the resources. And the REST client accesses and modifies the resource. Here means REST application. We develop some kind of new application we deploy to server so that it can provide that resource, whatever resource we design. So in this case, employee resource right. So we develop a REST application based on the employee resource and we deploy to servers so that it provides access to the employee resource. And in this case, the REST client is a postman. Using postman, you can access the employee resource and you can modify the employee resource. So that's the reason. By using, get method, get post support. Yeah, get method, get post support. Get post, delete support for each resource. This we'll discuss. And next is okay, we'll discuss about the REML. Now to describe the REST API in the MuleSoft. It uses a language called REML, RESTful API Modeling Language. So to design the REST API, RESTful is R. A stands for API. M stands for modeling. And L stands for language. So RESTful API Modeling Language RML is used to design REST API. Describe the REST APIs. Used to describe REST API. We will see how it is described the REST API. So the MuleSoft designed something called Deliver, something called Anypoint platform. Let us show Anypoint platform. Anypoint platform is a complete infrastructure of the MuleSoft. And using the Anypoint platform, what we can do is we can design APIs. We can design new APIs and we can develop APIs, develop or implement API. And we can deploy our API to different kinds of runtimes or servers. And we can share our APIs to different stakeholders or external clients or internal teams. All those share our APIs. And we can manage our APIs. We can operate different kinds of security policies so that they can secure it. Secure different kinds of other policies also. Then we discuss our policies in that section. We can manage API. So this Anypoint platform provides all these kinds of features. So to design it, we have that design center in the Anypoint platform. I'll show the design center. Now to design API, it is a simple API. Okay, so what is the purpose of the design center? It is a design center. To design it, we have the design center. And to develop API, we used yesterday, right? What is the component used to develop APIs? HEMA. It's the API Anypoint design, right? Anypoint Studio, right? Studio, yesterday you implemented simply an application, right? So where you have all the connectors, all the stuff. So using that we can develop APIs. Anypoint Studio. Studio is a way we can develop APIs and deploy API. We have the runtime. Runtime Manager. I'll show you the Runtime Manager. Locally also, we can deploy APIs using Anypoint Studio. Yesterday, you deployed API and you showed me, right? From the Postman, you deployed API and share API. There is something called Anypoint Exchange. Anypoint Exchange is a place where you can share your APIs. Like, you develop the mobile applications and you put those applications in the Play Store, App Store, so that other guys can be able to download and use, right? Similarly, you can develop the Mule applications so you can post in Anypoint Exchange, so that other parties in the world, they can use your application also. Exchange is a place for sharing your APIs or applications, right? And manage API, something called Anypoint Manager. So there are different components. These are all comprised of Anypoint platform. Platform comprises of design. You can design APIs, develop, deploy, share, manage. To do individual activities, we have separate components, some separate sections of this. So question. So it looks like you know design API and deploy API and share API and manage API. All of that is done inside Anypoint platform. Exactly, yeah. But developing API, you use Anypoint Studio. Yeah, it's also part of Anypoint platform. Is it? Yeah. So the stuff that you have, like where we're designing the Mule events and stuff. That's not Anypoint platform. Which one? The one you would be using, the tool that, like Anypoint Studio. This one. So this is not part of the Anypoint platform. No, it is also part of Anypoint. If you go over here, right, Anypoint MuleSoft come. This is where you create your MuleSoft account, right? Oh. If you sign into Anypoint platform, see you land into dashboard of Anypoint platform over here. It's loading. One moment please. It's quite faster. See, this is dashboard of Anypoint platform, right? You can see the design center, you can see the exchange, you can see the Anypoint studio, right? Oh, Anypoint studio there. Anypoint studio, Anypoint exchange, Anypoint design center, and API manager, runtime manager. These are all primary components of Anypoint platform. See. So the first one is where you design API. The second one, exchange, is where you share your APIs. The Anypoint Studio is where you develop, is that right? Correct, correct. So that is the power of Anypoint platform. What MuleSoft do is they bunch all the components in one place and deliver as one single product. And this owned by MuleSoft. Yeah, this owned by MuleSoft. Is it a cloud version of MuleSoft? Is it? MuleSoft is a company, right? So this is a cloud, though this is online. This is a cloud version. Yeah, this is cloud, only this is cloud version. So there is no. I'm not asking we should do it, but that's only an option we have. There is no one we can install locally. Yeah, local installation is also there. Some clients, like banking clients, they don't want to go over the cloud. They won't trust Anypoint. Sorry, MuleSoft, they won't trust anybody. So what do they have then? Then they use the on-prem, the backend systems, and they use some kind of VPC connectivity. To the Anypoint, they can use that. There are several deployment options that are available. MuleSoft ships some kind of product purely on-prem. So they need to deploy the MuleSoft itself completely on-prem. So if that's the case, they will still use the Anypoint platform, but it will point it to their local environment. Yeah, correct. But the design, everything here is the same. Yeah, it's exactly the same. Okay, got it, thank you. Based on the customer requirement, MuleSoft will ship that kind of product. So you have to purchase something from MuleSoft, right, to get that thing set up? Exactly. There are several deployment options available. Based on the customer deployment requirement, they will provide such kind of deployment. You can go for the pure on-prem, pure local or cloud, and there's some kind of hybrid requirement. Some components in the cloud and some components in the local. That is also possible, and you can deploy entirely in the cloud. That is also possible. So different options are available based on the customer requirement. Got it? I'm with you. Thank you. Now, this Anypoint platform comprises all these kinds of components together. So if a customer gets the Anypoint platform, he can design an API over here. He can develop APIs in the Anypoint platform. So the customer can deploy here, okay, and they can exchange. You can put some access management, all the stuff in one product. Now we start the first step with the designing APIs. For that, I need to go to the design center. Start designing. Got it. Now I want to design a very simple API. Now there is already an employee API over here. I want to create some kind of account API. Okay. So some customer API. Some customer I want to create. Some bank wants to create some new customers. Okay, so to create a customer API, I need to log in. After logging, there is a button called Create New. I want you to click on the Create New API. So Create New. Yeah, there are different kinds of options that are available. Right now we focus on the API specification. We discussed the API fragment new application. We will discuss it later. I don't want to miss or discuss all the things one together. The very first step, I want to develop an API specification. API spec. So create new API spec. I need to give the spec name. I'm going to give the spec name as Customer API. Create new API spec. And create new API spec. So if you see over here I need to describe my customer API using the YAML. That is the YAML file. So in the YAML, what is the first activity I need to do? What is the API? Not forget about YAML. What is the first activity? I told you right. If you want to develop any kind of API, what is the very first activity? What do you need to do? First step is you design an API, like a resource. Right. So for me, I want to create new customers. I want to update customers. I want to delete customers. I want to do all these to the customer, right? So my resource is customer. For that slash. Did I answer correctly? Was it say like identify the resource? Yeah, identify resource. The very first step. So I identify my resource as a customer. So I put a customer over here. Now I will develop this API and I will give this API to my clients. Why I am developing this API? I provide this API to the client so the client can use this API, right? That's right. Right. Then client want to create a new customer. Then what method do you use to create a new customer? Post method. You would set the post over here. Right? So that backslash is a comment or is it? Is a RAM. It's a syntax. We need to put for a resource. We need to put slash. This is every resource has to have a backslash. Yes. Or forward slash. Then the resource name. And then colon at the end. It's a resource definition. Now see, I put post over here. What I did. What is the reason I put post over here? Because you want to create something. Now post is a child of the customer. Child means see. You can see some space over here, some tab over here. From here to here. So this indicates that this post is a child of the customer. Means this post is applied on the customer resource. It should not be like this. This is not valid case. So is that like a one-time thing, one tab or two tabs? One. So the method should be child of the resource. Resource, yeah. How you indicate the child means you need to put a tab over here. Then it indicates that okay, this is post is we are applying on the customers. In the same Ravel file, you can have multiple resources. For example, in the Ravel file, I'm creating customers and I'm creating accounts also. For example, So to define accounts, I'm creating one more resource here /accounts. This is a different resource. Right. So in this API spec, there are two resources. One is customer resource is there and account resource is there. Right. And to create a customer, I use a post method. And to retrieve a customer, what method will it use? Get method. So now you see get and post are siblings. They are the same level. Right. To update a customer, what method will it use? Put method. You can even click it. It's clickable. That's nice. It's clickable. Now to retrieve accounts. What's the method? I want to retrieve the accounts. What's the method I need to use? Retrieve. Get here. Get method here. Right. So likewise, we will apply methods on the resources. Yeah. Right. Now we'll go to the second step. The client who is using this resource want to create a new customer. Right? Then use a post method. Then the post method. He will send the customer information in a body section. The body. Right. Post as body. And that body has. And the body might be JSON or XML. Usually we use the JSON or Excel, whatever the content. Now here, if you observe this snippet, these 4 lines, right? Focus on the 4 lines. What are the 4 lines indicates? There is a customer resources there. The resource. HT. Method post means this is used to create a new customer. Yeah, and the client can post the body. Customer information the body. In what format? The client post in the JSON. And we want to define, you can define some examples also how the customers look like. This is an example. Maybe the customer look like this. Some customer information. Yeah. Yeah. You can put any parameters. Whatever. Right. Now this snippet see. This should be mandatory. See, you should not put all these lines in the same line. See the customer for the resource post the child. For post body is a child and for body, this indication, right application MIME is the child. An example is child of this application JSON. And this type of hierarchical structure means parent, child and relationship. This type of definitely defining things in this manner. This is called the YAML. YAML. Yet another modeling language. So the hierarchical YAML or the language. It is called a language, but it's very simple. Just if you're describing something in a hierarchical manner, that is called YAML. Okay, it's not a language. It's simple. Language means you will confuse a lot. Maybe something different. Nothing is there. Just you defining something in a parent-child relationship over here like this, putting some space in, putting some space here. The space itself indicates that this is the child of this is the parent. So that is called YAML. So can you clarify for me? Yeah, sure. And so Rama versus Yale. Yeah. So Rama versus Yale. Yeah, the language you design in API in MuleSoft called RAML. Correct. Correct. But inside the RAML, the hierarchy or structure, how you structure the RAML and API specification is YAL. Yeah, exactly. Your understanding is 100% correct. Oh, got it. So RAML follows the YAML standard. YAML standard means just. I like that. I like how you put it. You say YAML follows. Stands for YAML. Yeah, another. Yeah, it's YAML. It's yet another modeling language, but it's very simple. Nothing is there in the YAML. Just your display describing the data in a hierarchical structure. Okay. That's you're putting some space between child and parent, something like this. I explained right. This is the YAML structure. RAML follows the YAML structure. Right. See, if you see over here the customers in the resource, and then there are different three methods: host method, get method, put method. Let me design a get method also. But get doesn't have body. Actually, get means simply what you want to retrieve information from the client. Sorry, from the server. Yeah. So in that case, I won't send anybody. As a client, I won't send anybody to the service, right? So get as a child is response. Because get expects a response from the server. Right. There are some HTTP codes out there. 200 is a success code and 400 are failure code. Something like that. Assume a success method. First happy path. If it's 200, that response has a body. And that body is a JSON format. Might. It looks like this customers. I see. Some more. It's very strictly. Therefore, we're not following that one. Somebody do something. It's good. So the syntax is complete. It should be. When I put the same level right, it won't accept that. That's right. Oh, now I don't know. This is a simple API. Right? So this API has two methods. One is to create a new customers and other is to retrieve a customer and sometimes write. See the post. create a new customer and get retrieved all the customers in the application. Now you want to see a specific customer. You don't want to see all the customers. I want to see a specific customer for Hamoud from the system, right? Every single customer. For that, I need to pass some unique identification of the Hamoud, like the Hamoud ID or Hamoud name or whatever. Something like that. Yeah. So for that, I need to declare something called sub-resource. Sub-resource, I declare inside the main resource, customer slash and customer ID. Customer. This thing. See customer slash customer ID. Customer ID. I'm wrapping inside curly braces. Right, so it's like a UI. Yeah. Means at runtime, I will pass the customer ID. If you want to know the information about the Ganesh, I will pass the Ganesh ID. I see. If you want to know information about Hamoud, I will pass Hamoud ID. So that one, here I can't. I will apply something called get method to get the information about the Hamoud. JSON. Sometimes it becomes like, so don't worry. Don't worry. Nothing wrong. It gives long spaces but should not be the same level. You can put your example. The example is not mandatory. So all the examples you're using, it's not required, but it's good to have it. Yeah, good to have it. So you're telling the API, this is how the example of the data will look like. I'll show you that one. What is the advantage of putting examples? I can show you now. I can put a simple example. Alright, now it's a very simple API designed for customers. Actually, customers using customer object, right? The real-time data object. I need to declare some objects. In the next session, I will show you how to declare data type. Here I'm putting everything in an example. It's not a standard. We won't use the standard while developing the real-time APIs. But as of a very simple thing, simplify this API definition in the examples. Right? So what happens? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, so you have two methods inside the customers. Yeah, two customers. No, like under customers resource. Yeah, you have two methods. One post and one get, and they're inside the customers. And you have another. So this is also under customer, the customer ID. Yeah, the customer, but it is a resource. I know. But it is inside of a customer's resource. Yeah, correct, inside the customer. Therefore, you see the URL path look like this customer's class. Oh yeah, I see now. Now you want to update some customer. You need to put method over here, not there. Put method. Means you're passing the customer. I want to update this specific customer. Put as the body. I'm not putting an example. This one also. these. There are two methods on the main resource and two methods of resource. Now why MuleSoft advocates design the API? Something called the API first approach. We design the user design for the API first approach. Design first approach. So what happens is actually, when you design the API, in the earlier days, they will develop the API first without any designing. Maybe they implement the API. They develop the API to develop the API. What happens if you got requirements? Requirements that is in the API. Of developing the API, those showcased to the client. They demonstrate to the client. And at this point, what happens is, client has a different kind of expectations on the requirements, but our IT team understands a different manner and they develop the application in a different manner. The moment when you are showcasing to the client got surprised. Nobody, I didn't expect in this manner. I have some different expectations, but you design different thing. I don't want that. I want to know different ways. Right. So at this point, we put a lot of time and effort. So development team put some considerable amount of time and efforts in developing the API. What happens? All our times and effort got wasted. We need to develop again. So instead of that, before developing itself, you design the API. If there is an option to showcase your API at this point itself, the design point itself, right? You showcase to the API to the design point itself, the customer. And you customer give some kind of points. Customer gives feedback. Based on that, you refine the API design again. And you refine the design again multiple times. And at some point of time, you and customer are on the same page. Right. Yeah. So you refine the API multiple times. And that is agreed by the customer. And at that moment, you start the development. After that, once you and your customer are on the same page, then you start the development. So if you follow this kind of approach right, then you can save a lot of time and effort, because at the development point the customer IT team put a lot of time and effort. After that, you want to change something. It is very costly, very expensive. Right before design, it is very less expensive. You can change any time. You can design very easily rather than the development. Oh, so Anypoint use this kind of feature to showcase your design to the customer. That is called a mocking feature. Mock? Yeah, it mock as a developed application. So now I design the API here, right? So you are my customer. I want to showcase this application to a customer. What I'm doing? I'm going to develop a customer API to you. Let me show you this application. This is what you need to send. This is what we will send back to you. Like that. You know I'm mocking configuration. Mocking service configuration. One moment. Do you have to save this? Yeah, sure. Like all this stuff that you did, do you have to save it? Yeah, it's already saved. Automatic save. Automatic save. In the cloud. In the cloud. It gives a copy of the cloud URL. So can you go back one more time? How do you get here? Yeah, this one. If you mock this configuration, right? So you click that we do this one. It gives something link over here. Click that link. Service, yeah, copy settings. Copy URL. Okay, pick and go to the client. Like Postman. And now I want to get the resource to get. What is the resource you are using? Customer. Customer service source. Send it. It will be sent and it returns this one. So I can show you how this is the customer API. So by get method all the customers. So this one is reading the API design. API design, yeah. The customer API design. So how does it know that? So this one. Oh, it's not local right now. We're saying the endpoint. Yeah. We say endpoint. Yeah. And it has that link. It has that program. I can share that with you also. You can also try it out. Okay. I put you in the chart. Oh, I can do that. I can try that. Yeah, you can try it out. One moment, let me grab some water. I'm going to get a little thirsty. Customer send. Was it get? I think it was get. I did. This is weird. Alright. So you create the API. I'm sorry. I'm not there. I just came. I went to get some water. So I was able to. I do the get method and I see. What do you see? That two objects, right? Yes. And for customer name information. Now I want to get some customer name, so I'm going to get some customer. For that, I'm passing something like some XYZ someone to well. Click on that. It doesn't exist. It is going some. It's tooled. Okay, but it's not getting anything. But we have a resource. Alright, let me see the one. So customer really get it. Should have written this example. I'm going to have this thing. I'm going to have customer slash customer. Customer slash customer. I checked it out. We don't have the ID. Any kind of pass anything. It has to return that thing. Because the customer ID at runtime will pass, right? So it matches this thing. It has to return this example, but some way it's not getting it. Customer. Get my time. Sorry, it has a body. It's not a body. It's a response. 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 I was going to say that to you, but then I say it might be different. I noticed this. You had a body. Then I said maybe. Maybe when you retrieve in one person, you need a body. That's nice. Body is only proposed methods. Yeah, you did say that. I'm sorry. No problem. Yeah, that's how you save any moment. Star is not saved. Say automatically for some time, yes. It's written right now. Right. Something of a customer. It takes an ID and it is this one. So this is not an actual working one. This is just marking as an. This mark means as a. Yeah, as we do mark it so that you can demonstrate to your in this payload to a customer. Yeah, this is what you need to pass. This is what you get. So you and your customer write. They get the same page on the payloads, what information the customer is passing and what information, right? So then everything is good. Then we start the development. Yeah, so this is the marking feature, right? And now is it how long? How long does it? And what I've seen, what's the lifetime of this marking? Is it only for temporary? Or is it going to be there for a while? This account, you create an account right in Anypoint platform. The account, you can use a code for 1 month actually, okay? So, but when you have a marking and link like this, how long is it going to be valid? So you see the free account, right? So our free account will valid for 1 month. 1 month, the marking feature will be valid. But yeah, if you have a permanent environment, yeah, that could be until you retire. Right? You'll be able to be available. If you take an enterprise license of any kind of platform, there is an API on the enterprise license you can mark it. That will be available, permanently. But if we develop this API using our temporary accounts, right? So it's for 1 month only. Something like that. Okay. So let me make sure I am connecting all the dots. When you have a requirement to work on a project, you will design this. You will design the API, right? So, for example, like I don't know, they will tell you, for example, this is the the web service that you need to hit. And this information you need to get from that resources. Then you design the API according to that information. And when you able to retrieve the information is that you want, based on the examples or based on the design you create. Yeah, then you create a temporary link or mark. We call a marking. And you show the customers and say that this is working. This is how you want it. Exactly. So far you using either MuleSoft or the post or something that shows them an XML format or JSON format. Whatever. So the customers you're dealing with, they must know like how to use like a postman, or they have to use some kind of, that's expected. The customer has to, because this is a CTP application. Right. Yeah, so the customer has if any specific CTP application. Okay, you can test using these applications of a generic clients like the Postman or ARC or something. Some specific client applications are there. So using that we demonstrate to the customer. Yeah. But they need to be familiar with that. They need to know that. Yes, otherwise. Because you know a lot of I don't know. I'm new to this, but a lot of customers they like. For example, was that on the they may have a better QI like a website or something. But here actually the communication between customer IT team and the development team IT team. So usually this kind of discussion happens between IT teams. Alright. Yeah. And I see now, even if I paste the marker, the marking URL in a normal URL, it shows that the XML and output, XML output on the Chrome. You are saying, yeah, I'm using Chrome and I can see now in the Chrome. I didn't say I'm a Jason. Jason. Yeah. The API we designed is very simple one. Yeah. And we discussed a little more about API best practices and design, all the stuff. This is one. So you design the API and you want to implement the API. You want to do some kind of. Here design is simple document. It is nothing. Working copy of the thing. Right? You want to develop some working copy of this API. Yeah, it's just template. Right. Yeah, simple template. Right? So if I can see that. You know, at the beginning you might need to create this, but I can see that the more you do it, you may have a template that you can use too. To configure, to design the API much faster than going tab and picking up all the, do you think that makes sense? Where you may have a template. That's, you can use. That templates we going to develop as part of the API design. The templates is called a resource types and types. Then it in advanced development. Within the meals. Within the Rambler. Within the Rambler. Now this is very simple. We've got very frustration. I like to explain in a very simple manner. I know I explained this one. We can develop templates also. Okay, I think I like the first thing. I like you do, and I like to learn from the foundation and then build on that. Exactly. Okay. Now I'm going to my new points to me over here. My intent is I want to do some working copy of the customer API. So I'm getting new project. As a customer. That location. Somewhere I do. All the existing different customer API. I am here one. The rambling that is in the right download RAM. This is the staff. I need to do my credentials. On this one location. Ask me any kind of questions. Show up all the API is present in my business. Okay, so I want to create implementation to the customer API. So I'm setting this one API. Okay. So it will create a project that implements the customer API, which is see, I create a project called customer API. I am here one. And if you see this project, you have this project right. There are. This is called main flow. This is called router flow, main flow. This is called a pick it up. I will explain what is a pick it out. If you see the API you designed, how many resources are there? There's only one resource, a customer resource. And the customer resource. How many methods are there? 2 minutes. 2 is it? Is there one more? Yeah, 2. And the other one was ID. One more sub-resource are there. On that we have one method. One method to 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So, as far as the API, you need to provide implementation for the 4 methods. One method is to create an API. So, it's time to create a customer. And second method to get to the customer from the back end. And to get a specific customer and to operate a specific customer. There are 4 implementations. So, if you see the Anypoint to your project you created, project to be created. See, there is one flow over here. And flow number 2. Flow number 3. And flow number 4. The 4 flows are here. Oh, so each method. Yeah, exactly. Each method has a flow, And each method has a flow. From the postman. I want to retrieve a customer. Post from the postman. I want to create a new customer. Postman, I call it a client. Anypoint. Design center. This is the sequence design. Let's see. Post customer. The flow path. I call it a method. Right. So what happens is from the customer, from the postman, there's a post method and you send some customer information. I use a post method and you send me some customer information, the body. The corresponding the implementation lies over here, actually in the new flow. Here you write what happens, what to do when post method. You know you want to store into the packet. You create something database component over here. Okay. And that will store to the backend. Database and table will be there over here. Customer table. Customer. If you add, say, takes this customer and adds a record over here. That's a portion of the right. So once again, I'm sure I understand. So the client post a message using like a Raman specification. Yes. And then the Rommel passes the information to the Mule and REST API. You know. I don't know. So this was a Rommel. And now it become a Mule event. It's not like that. This Mule flow is created based on the Rommel. Oh, seems a little confusing. I put Rommel over there, but this snippet created based on the Rommel. So it won't call this one. And this one will call this. That is not the manner. This is a design part. And for this design, this is the implementation part. But in the runtime, client will call directly the implementation part. The design is not in the picture. This arrow is not at all valid. I'm sorry for confusing you. Just I want to explain something like manager is not working. Okay. That's okay. So client will directly call the implementation. But this implementation is created on the base of this design. That's what I want to say. That's right. So it is now. It is a dummy implementation, but we need to create an implementation. Now, actually it creates a dummy implementation. Yeah. So the project is created on some dummy implementation. But as we are developers, we need to put actual implementation over here. So what do you want to do when posting in the post? We want to save the information to the file system. So from here. So Ganesh from here. This is the post method. Yeah, one on the top of it is a good method. And the other sub-programs or like ID stuff. Yeah. So if what I'm doing is now, I'm simply a defense application. So I'm not at all implementing anything, but I'm deploying application. Simply designer idnic. X time for the intro. So if I deploy this application, it's facing face. The next phase is starting phase. Now deployed. In that case, I need to put localhost over here because I should not over invoking the marking guard. I'm using get, I guess. 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 So right here then. Which one is the main flow, or this is the main flex for this one is A. You know every request will come. So you know there's only one resource here, right? Oh, one is there. I did that first, but there are no list of configure. The source is empty. Request lines over here. Okay from the postman. What did localhost A to refund/API write? See, if you see this laser path is API and localhost 8 it was. So the request comes and lands at this point, then go to router. Yeah, router, but yeah, I was gonna say, I think you get into that. But there are more other stuff in this page than the 4. Yeah, like those ones, I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, this one we will explain later. Okay, that's fine. We discussed about error handling. That moment I will tell you what is on. Error propagate on the stuff. Don't worry on that, you just understand it. Now try to understand how Rata routes the request to a specific flow. Okay, so if my request is like this, the method is get and the resource is customers. Okay, so localhost 8081 Nepal. This is the URL the listener receives. Actually, is it localhost 8081 API? Right. Okay, afterwards, what URL I'm requesting? Customers, I'm requesting. The method is get. So it routes to the flow that is matching customer and gets over here for that. This is the method, this is the flow, that is a get method and customers. Right? So control comes over here. Therefore here, okay, this is going to be whatever you defined. Over that's come back to our client. I'm sure that's it. Is it complicated? Hammer. Now now I understand. So alright, the first one is gonna route to. If I put like this one over here and this one point to this flow. Yeah, because postman we asked to get it. We didn't say to post it. We didn't say to put it right. We say get. Yeah. Because it's gonna route you to the get method. Exactly if I put the post. It's gonna take you to the post. Post method, right? Yeah, got it. This one will invoke this call, will invoke this flow. Post like this. Flow that waiting to invoke the post method for this flow. Yeah. You put some loggers and then also you can test is control coming over here or not. So call will land at this flow. So now the client is customer. This can send a body the customer information and we can create the customer on the back end, right? The application can take the customer information and put it on the back end. You can modify it. You can do all the operations I can do right as a customer. Got the employment of importance of this API. This is a very basic thing. We're going forward. We're going to discuss a little bit advanced concept of API design. Hope this has got some idea about the API, the best API resource. Yeah, this is really good. It's really good because like we designed the API. We test it, we mark it, then we implement it. Yeah, implement it. And then you can retrieve it in a Mule. Like in a Mule. What do you call that? Studio or something? Endpoint Studio. Then you import. Yeah. We need to deploy you import in an Endpoint Studio where you can do more like a transformation or more parsing. I don't know. So at the end of the day, is that when you download it or move it to the other Endpoint Studio. You will do something with the message and then either it's stored somewhere or do something, whatever that customer wants. Correct? So that's like high level process, right? Exactly. How API design or API through MuleSoft works. Exactly. Now we send this thing, right? So now what happens is the request go to the Mule. And it takes a Mule request and transforms to sorry HTTP request and transform Mule. That will all that happens over there. That's the story we discussed yesterday. This is a basic fundamental on API design and API implementation. That's nice. So now coming to this is a debug process. So debug process is very important thing while developing. So what I want to do is I want to put some logger in the post method. I want to put one more logger. So in the logger I am putting a sorry. If this concludes post method. I'm putting you, apply it. I'm putting some traces. So I want to debug my application. You know debugging, right? Debugging means you want to walk through the application flow, how your application executing. Some of you got an error. Debug is very important to trace the error at what point the application is erroring out so that you want to identify right for the purpose with the debug. Got it? So the debug we need to put something like breakpoint means at what point you want to, from what point onwards you want to walk through your application. That is your breakpoint. So here what I am doing is I am creating one more variable over here. I simply put a variable some logger, not a variable. I am putting some logger. Some static test in the customer API. So I am putting a breakpoint over here. The breakpoint is right. Click over any component and add breakpoint. Add some dot in the corner. Now I am starting my new application in debug mode. So who currently is running on the run mode? Stop it and right click here at debug project. Select the debug so the project will deploy in debug mode. So now I am hitting my request. So if I hit right, what happens? The control is stuck over here at this point. See. You see, this one got highlighted right. So you can see at this point what is the payload, what are the variables, what are the attributes, all things you can see at this point. So at this variables matches with that. So let me come down. So now payload. We are not seeing any payload. The payload is empty because the body is empty. Actually, we are not seeing anything, so body is empty. Therefore, the payload is empty. You could have seen some. Variables are also zoo. There are no variables stated. Now see the attributes in the headers. Are you sending the attributes? Let me see. Are you sending the attributes in the postman? There are no headers you are sending, right? There are no query parameters you are sending, so attributes are also empty because we are not sending anything. If you send, I can show you that one. I will share down this thing. Let me do one thing. Let me send some information. So I am sending some header parameters. I am sending query parameters. I am sending body. So posting this thing now at this moment. Let us see. The payload is name Mary. This is the payload you are sending. What are the attributes you are sending? You see the headers. Technology is going to be so. This is one header. We are sending the query parameters. On query parameters, we are sending. That is called city is equal to New York. We can see. Now I am moving a little further. If you press F6 or you can press this one next processor, it comes over here. Press F6 again, see the control. Go to the post method, post customers. How it goes to post customer? Because we are using post method and the resource is customers. Therefore, it goes over here. And if you press F6 again, goes to variable and press F6 again. See now a new variable got created. If variable size is 2, now see employee name is equal to Mary. What is this? I do not know, but employee. This is one employee we created right just now. Now F6 means the flow got executed, completed, and you can see the result in the post method. If I use a get method, now what happens? See, send it. It come over here. Come over here. Now put F6, the control goes to get customers. See. Get customers. The flow is because the request is on the customer objects. We are invoking get method. The corresponding flow got invoked. This will get executed. This got this information. How more this information? So after execution of this one in the client, you can see that got it. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.